Hey, how's it going? Pretty excited. I already have almost 20 subscribers, so I'm pretty excited about that. So, to those who have subscribed already, thank you so much. Every single one of you, it really means a lot to me. So, again, thank you, thank you, thank you. So I recorded the other video, and I recorded myself just talking about all my Sasquatch experiences, and it wasn't very good. It was too long. I felt like it was just kind of droning on. So I think a more cohesive way to talk about this will just be going through both expeditions, and then I'll talk about some weird stuff that's happened in the area I'm back in now, and where I mostly grew up, which is the Peoria, Illinois area. But I'm gonna start uploading with my GoPro, and I forgot to say this in my intro video, but I have probably over 30 hours of GoPro footage from my expeditions, which I've been hesitant to upload because I'm kind of a moron. It's really embarrassing. I'm no Luke Nichols, so I've been kind of apprehensive to upload it. But I was going through some of it, and a lot of it I just can't upload on YouTube because it goes against their guidelines. But I'll upload a little bit of it. I'll upload some of it. So the Ozette expedition. Sorry, I gotta work on my enunciation. Now, why I chose Ozette was because it constantly kept coming up in different forums I was reading. And Steve Isdall talked about a story out of Ozette, an aggressive story out of Ozette. And there have been a number of people who have disappeared around that area. So that's why I chose Ozette. It's also pretty isolated. Ozette Trail is pretty popular among hikers, but that's all up at the top of the lake near the ranger station. That's where pretty much everyone stays who goes there. And the rest of the lake is largely ignored. Not a lot of people go to Ozette for the lake. They go over there for like Shai Beach and that area. And the reason I did it was I was just wasting my life. I was living in my parents' house. I had to have been over 500 pounds when I started because I'm 430 pounds now. And my kilt is still massive on me. I still have to fold it. I'll show you guys in my kit video how big my kilt still is on me. So I had to have been over 500 pounds. And I went with pretty much just enough to get there. And I still do believe that at some point I'm going to have something significant happen with these beings. I don't know what, but I do believe that this whole journey is getting me to that point where something significant, I don't know what will happen, but I still believe 100% something big is going to happen eventually with these beings. But I was 100% of that time that I was going to go to Ozette, and I was going to kill a Sasquatch, and I was going to emerge from the woods as a hero. And that did not happen. Ozette actually, it might be the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to me in my life, but I'll get into that. There were some significant things that happened with Sasquatch activity out there. Looking back, especially after my experience in Little Pond Array, I do believe that they were letting me know that they were in the area, but they really weren't interacting with me much. Ozette's more of a story about growth and failure. Little Pond Array is where everything weird started happening. Little Pond Array was like an episode out of the Twilight Zone. But after I left home, one of the coolest things, the coolest dream I've ever had in my life happened at Spearfish, South Dakota. And I was at an area called Chris's Camp. And I was just renting a primitive campsite there. And I had a dream where I was hanging out with Jesus, and I don't remember what we were talking about. I don't remember anything other than it just being like two friends hanging out. And at one point in the dream, I remember I started like getting attacked by intrusive thoughts. And I started like kind of panic because like I'm right next to Jesus. And he looks at me and he kind of like laughs and says, Chris, look into my eyes. And I look into his eyes and he shoots lightning bolts, like blue lightning bolts, into my skull, and I feel them on my brain. And that's all I remember from that dream. But ever since then, when I'm dealing with intrusive thoughts, I think about that dream, and I'm able to manage them. It's like they're halted for I mean, they still come back, but like they're halted once I think about that dream. And I think that also helped me control my fear a lot, was being able to control my intrusive thoughts. Directly allowed me to manage my fear a lot better. But after that, a couple things happened. I was kind of skim over. Like, I had to get my spark plugs changed. I had to get a tow and get my spark plugs changed, which was cool because my tow truck driver knew more about these beings than I did, and he also had an extremely close relationship with Jesus. So it was like I felt like that was supposed to happen, and we were supposed to meet, because it was weird how like we were on the exact same page as to what we thought was happening. And my hypothesis or whatever has changed a little bit, but it's mostly the same as to what these beings are. And again, I'll talk. I just have to keep going. So anyway, it took me a couple days after that to get to Ozette, and what was way more difficult and way more stressful than leaving home was leaving my car. Because I think by the time I got to Ozette, I had like $250 to my name. And if I would have lost my car, I would have been totally SOL. But I remember leaving my car, and I spent my first couple nights on Tivoli Island, just like getting ready for everything. And that was like heaven on earth. If you're at Ozette Lake, kayak out to Tivoli Island, because it's just an isolated, super sandy island. The water is like crystal clear. But I just want to say that because I spent a couple nights there before I headed out to the Allens Bay campsite. And I specifically picked the Allens Bay campsite because that's where a lot of aggressive encounters sounded like they were coming from. My first 2 weeks there, it didn't rain once. Oh, sorry, it rained like once, but like just like a light little like scatter rain, which is unheard of in the Olympic Peninsula. And again, it was awesome. It was like 65 to 75 degrees every day. And it was strange how favorable the weather was. But that first week and a half or so, I wasn't trying to provoke them. That first week and a half, I was just trying to establish some type of communication with them. And nothing happened. It was like no vocalizations, no wood knocks, no nothing. And so, like, half of me started thinking that they're just not out here. That I made a mistake coming out here or whatever, that they're just not out here. So I started screaming insults at them. And that night, I screamed insults all night long, probably from like 11 to... I went to bed about 3 in the morning, and I remember the moment I fell asleep. It was like the moment I went from the conscious world to the dream world, or like the sleeping consciousness or whatever. I heard something slap the side of my tarp, and as I was waking up, I'm pretty sure I heard what sounded like footprints were running away from me. But it was right after I woke up, so it's not like other experiences I've had where it's like 100% that I know what I was dealing with. But it took me a while to figure out what the sound was, because after I woke up, I spent probably 5 or 10 minutes trying to identify that sound, like dropping stuff off my lap, trying to recreate it. And eventually I slapped the side of my tarp, and it was exactly what woke me up. And there's a huge reason I think that was Sasquatch activity, because it kind of aligns with the activity I had in Little Pond Array, where I feel like they'll take chances to deliver a message to you. And the message I think they were trying to deliver to me was, we know the moment you fall asleep. We are in control of the situation. But a couple of days later after that, this hippie dude, who was the only guy who I met, the only person I ran into my entire time out there, and he had these 2 dogs. And dogs usually love me, and I love dogs. But these dogs were freaked out the moment they saw me. They wouldn't stop barking. They wouldn't get anywhere near close to me. And Dylan was freaked out by that too, because he was like, dude, my dogs usually love everybody. And he even mentioned, like, he said something along the lines of, like, you really shouldn't trust people who your dogs don't trust. And it was kind of awkward because you could tell he was uncomfortable because his dogs were freaking out. And he had gone to my campsite because he was looking for a hiking trail that goes from Allen's Bay to the Pacific Ocean. And I had tried to go through it, but it was way overgrown. But he got farther than I did. And he had to stop because his dogs wouldn't go any further. There was something farther up the trail that they were terrified of and wouldn't budge any further up the trail, so he turned around. And he hung out with me for a couple hours. That was actually really cool. I was kind of surprised, because he seemed freaked out about the dogs, but I don't know, he still hung out with me, so that was kind of cool. And his dogs loved me by the end. His dogs were snuggling up to me by the end, so that made me feel a little bit better. So like I said, the first 2 weeks it didn't rain, and I was just kind of like sleeping in between 3 trees. I wrapped some paracord around and then draped tarps over. And like I said, it was dry, so I could just sleep directly in that. And it was cool. I actually, it was kind of, it was such a cool Halloween season. And also, Little Ponderay, I was out there in October too. And just squatching always reminds me of Halloween, because it's like I'd wake up and there'd be spiders in my hair, And I could only get one radio station out there, and they'd always be playing Halloween music and stuff, and all like the Halloween ads. So Sasquatch provocations, or just going out there and doing what I do, always reminds me of Halloween. I just had to say that. But after it started to rain, I couldn't sleep in that anymore because it started to flood, or even just like a big mud pit. So after that, I started sleeping in my dinghy, or if it was a dry night, I'd set up my hammock and sleep in my hammock. My leg's falling asleep. Oh no. Sorry. But and then one night when I was sleeping in my hammock, I remember just laying in my hammock, and like I was kind of waiting for them all night, like just something. And I hear at the side of my campsite where there's like a mini trail, I hear like not quite like that, but it was a mountain lion, and I had seen its like trail, its tracks by the water before, and I remember hearing that mountain lion. It was like within 10 yards of me. And the moment it started going off, I just remember thinking like, fuck yeah, it's happening, it's starting. And then I realized it was just a mountain lion. It was a pretty big disappointment. But, so about 3 weeks in is when I just started becoming totally mentally broken. Because it became obvious nothing was going to happen out there. And it got to a point where I couldn't eat anymore, because the food I brought out there was like protein powder, like greens powder, multivitamins, oats, powdered eggs, instant potatoes, and like granola bars and Airheads and stuff like that, which I'd already eaten, probably finished those off a week before. I was unable to eat, but it got to the point where like the indigestion was so bad, every time I would lay down, I could feel my stomach acid like just coat my entire esophagus, and it was like abscess level of pain. So that's when I started I started to plan to leave after that, just because it was just hell. But when I first tried to leave, I had the 14.1 Brie Cabot that's on Amazon. I had that, and then a little Henkai 6 horsepower motor, and I couldn't get the motor to work. And I did everything I could, checked the vents, and it would go like 100 yards, then just die. Checked the spark plugs, I brought the instruction manual just for that emergency, and I couldn't figure it out. So I tried paddling out, but with my weight and with all my gear, I was like hardly going a mile an hour, if not less. And oh, Lakeisha, please not right now. All right, I have a neighbor who's kind of loud, and I'm just expecting her to start blaring her music. Anyway, so I tried paddling out, and I hardly got out of Allen's Bay. Okay, I have to relax. This is all a test. This is all a test. I really don't like Lakeisha. But I tried paddling out of Allen's Bay, and I just started getting really lightheaded. So I started thinking, like, crap, I don't know if I should do this, because Ozette's kind of choppy. You know, it's not a flat lake. And so I paddled back, and I had a PLB, a personal locator beacon, and I decided, you know what, I think tomorrow I'm going to put it out. And there's a ranger station at the top of the lake, and I saw they had a boat. I'll put out my PLB, the ranger will come, he'll pick me up, take me back to my car. That'll be it. So the next day, probably around like 9 or 10 in the morning, I put out my PLB and I start waiting. About an hour passes by, and I start hearing what I think is the boat. And gets closer, I'm like, wow, that's a really loud boat. Gets closer, that doesn't sound like a boat. Then a big orange helicopter comes like military maneuvers, you know, and two rescue swimmers rappel down, and they were really cool dudes. Graham and Donnie. I'm not sure if I should have said their names, but they were really, really cool dudes, and I was so embarrassed, because I remember thinking, like, when I put out my PLB, like, it's not like they're going to send a helicopter. But that's exactly what happened, and I thought I was going to get like a stern talking to or like something, and I told them what I was doing, and they're like, hey man, that's awesome, you know, they offered me a helicopter ride, but I would have had to abandon all my gear, and I would have been like over 100 miles away from my car where we would have landed, so that wasn't an option. So I had to stay there, and they gave me an MRE, and that MRE was like a lifeline. That thing, that like put me back to being able to do stuff again. And so the next day I couldn't go out because, but they left. They said, yeah, if you have any more problems, just you got that PLB, use it, and we'll be right back here. And so they were really, really cool. I was really blown away at how laid back they were about everything. But I had to wait another day because the next day it was really, really choppy. And the day after that, it was perfect. And I left probably around like 10 in the morning, maybe a little bit before 10. And I didn't get back to my car until past 4. That's how slow I was going. And I was paddling the entire time. I took a little break on Swan Island. I'm pretty sure it was Swan Island, that's what it's called. But I took a break there for probably half an hour. But other than that, I was just paddling the entire time. And it took me, what was that, 6-7 hours to go from Allen's Bay back to where my car was. I think it's Swan's Bay is where my car was. But anyway, that's only like 5 miles. So it was difficult, but I was really glad when I got back. I got to keep all my gear. I didn't have to figure out how to get there, you know, if I would have taken that helicopter ride. But I only had like probably $250 to my name at that point, and my parents helped me a ton after that. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, my parents helped me a ton after that. So after that, I spent a couple nights in Forks. Then I traveled to Spokane because that's really the only affordable place for housing in Washington, and worked as a UPS helper for a little bit, just for that season in Rathdrum, Idaho, which I don't want to brag or anything, but I was still probably close to 500 pounds when I did that job, and we would do 300 to 400 stops a day. That's like over 50,000 steps a day, and I loved it. And it was extremely difficult, and there were some mornings I literally couldn't walk. Like I couldn't put weight on my legs or I would just collapse. But I freaking loved it, because I don't know, just hanging out with, like, my UPS driver was a really cool guy, so it was just like hanging out with him all day and looking at Christmas lights and, you know, getting some exercise in. but I didn't realize how intensive that UPS route was until I started looking at other UPS driver helpers, and they report 50 to 70,000 steps a day for that kind of route. And I was almost 500 pounds. Like, I don't know. I'm proud of that. I'm really proud of that. That I could do that at that weight. I'm bragging a little bit. I just wanted to say that because that does show that I'm a commando. That is commando level of stamina. But anyway, after UPS, I was a warehouse selector for a little bit, working at Safeway. And then I left in May, and it was Little Pend Oreille. And I'll talk about Little Pend Oreille. But, all right.